of your introduction, and it sets up for this exploration. I'm not going to add much to what you said about what we're doing. That sense of exploring what's happening inside each of us at the same time as what's happening in the group. And so I'm going to invite you to start with a little exercise that we're going to do. And you're going to stay muted, but we're all going to share where we're at. So what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes for a moment and to figure out, you know, where am I? What's the sense of myself right now? What's, some kind of a question of who am I? Where am I? What is it about me? And finding a couple of words, a phrase, maybe a gesture, maybe a noise. And then, when I say it, we're going to all stay muted and we're going to all say it at the same time. So what's going to happen is because everybody's muted, all you're going to hear is your own thing, but with your eyes, you're going to be looking at all the people who are sharing in their own way. Okay. And so this is a way to bring us together, but stay inside while being together, having the consciousness of all of us as a group and us being part of a group process without losing ourselves and a deep inside connection. Okay. So we're going to start with closing our eyes for a moment. And again, that question of what's happening inside. Okay, so now we can open our eyes. And to the count of 3, at 3, we will all be sharing. And I'm going to, after I say 3, I'm going to mute myself so that, like you, I'm just going to be hearing the sound of my voice, but not bringing the sound of my voice to you. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. So, thank you. I can't help smiling. And so maybe I'm sharing a little bit of my reaction as I feel like I'm literally having a sense of being uplifted, in the sense of I'm feeling my spine going up and my mouth opens up. So that feels something about, it feels good. I want to invite those of you who want to take turns sharing some of what you experienced. Where you're at and what it was like for you to share it. So briefly, Melinda, do we do this by raising hand on the system or just people speak spontaneously?
They have been speaking spontaneously. It has been working out fine. So you can just unmute yourselves when you're ready to say something.
Okay.
Or if you want to raise your hand and I can call, but there's 3 pages, so it's hard to see everybody.
Yeah. So whoever wants to share where you're at and what it was like to share it the way we did.
Okay, this is June. I feel wild inside and I need group holding is what it feels like. I need a group holding, and it felt great to express what I was feeling. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Brigitte bowing in. I met my intention inside my body to be here. And I copied the Serge movement, and I was in his intention to be here. And I was with everybody's intention. And my body was kind of a big cave. It was really, this is the first time I met my intention. It's pretty cool. Thank you, Serge.
Thank you.
I feel, it's Nurit, I feel activated inside as if I'm in emotion, and my intention is to be okay with my own rhythm.
Thank you.
I would say I'm Arlene, and I would say I felt a little torn actually between being here and 3 other things that are important to me to be doing right now. So, and in the past has kept me from being here in these meetings, but now I feel like I want that, you know, good focusing energy that I've been missing. So it helped me be here more. Exercise.
Thank you. So I want to interject a little something here, by the way, is I hope that certainly most of you feel good, comforted, energized, supported by what we're doing. But part of having a group like this is to make room for everybody's experience. So I want to make sure that we validate the idea that somebody can actually not feel good by what we're doing, or not feel good, and that what we're doing is not enough to pull you out of where you're at, that we're not trying to have unforced feeling good by being a group. The idea that makes the group safe and actually supportive and worthwhile is if we welcome all of the experiences that are part of it. And so now, or at any point, if you have an experience that is dissonant with the group, you know, one is, of course, you're invited to share it and it will be welcome. But even if you're not feeling comfortable expressing it, I just want to make sure you know that it is welcome and appreciated.
Thank you, Serge. I could speak to that. I don't know if you can hear me.
No, I'm not hearing very well here.
Yancy.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah, Incy, I can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Excuse me, that was Lucy was trying to speak. And I was just going to suggest maybe she could go closer to the microphone.
Is this better?
Much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What you said just now really spoke to me, Serge, because when I sensed inwardly, I felt a kind of whole spectrum from kind of feelings of delight about being here for the first time, down through feelings of uneasiness. And I noticed that when I tried to go with the more positive parts of the spectrum, it made me feel more uneasy. And when I really just went with uneasy, I noticed how incredibly strengthening it felt to bring that. So yeah.
And thank you for sharing this. So, you know, this is a point that, as Lynn was mentioning, we're participating, observing and participating in something in which we're paying attention to our inner experience and paying attention to what's happening in the group. And you notice the similarity that in focusing, we have a value that all feelings are welcome, that whole metaphor of the guest house. And we're not trying to exclude any guests. And somehow, often, when we're in a group, we naturally tend to do that, to exclude things that are not consistent with the general feeling of the group. And so what we're doing is very mindfully paying attention that all feelings be represented and welcome, and that people who bring in different feelings into the group contribute to the enrichment of our experience, just the same way as when we're in touch with some dissonant part of our experience, dissonant with who we want to be or we think we should be, we kind of cut ourselves off from the whole of who we are. Okay, and so that's the experience that we're having right now, kind of a sense of there's more to my experience at what I'm feeling right now. One is because more people in the group are feeling some variations of it or some different experiences, and it reminds me that at different moments I have different kinds of experiences.
It reminds me of Jean talking about how when each person speaks, there's a of the moreness of us. I don't think he used the word us there. That's more my term. But that sense of the intersubjective field, we can feel the complexity of it broadening ourselves. As you said that, I could feel that in myself. My image actually was of having within me late fall with winter coming on and early spring with new freedom and new life coming on at the same time. And so I resonated with that also. I just wanted to say that as each person speaks, the next person that speaks, you aren't just telling us what happened in the past when you went inside, but you are the interaction that's happening right now when you're speaking for the right nowness of this group and what's implicitly coming through you. And that's so exciting.
Thank you, Lynn. Yes, yes. You are the interaction. I am the interaction. We all are the interaction. And each person that speaks is the interaction manifesting in through this. So I'm inviting other people just to share what's happening for you right now.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
Which is that, hello, Leslie here. I don't know, I just had the word chaos, but also chaos like that thing of there's too much going on. And it's because I had someone trying to contact me about a task on my phone. And I was trying to, so I didn't want that. So it was like, oh, I don't want this, it's too much. So too many things. But just having done, and also that I found this way of the format. My eyes are really uncomfortable with Zoom and just seeing people. I couldn't see anybody else doing anything. So it's as we speak, I'm feeling a greater sense of connection. But didn't happen when we were doing that thing. Couldn't see anybody doing anything. But it's it's coming as we speak, and maybe I should keep my eyes closed and just listen.
Yeah. So I'm hearing a sense of a process going on, and you're capturing that sense of a process going on. It's not just a state that's fixed, but a process.
I just wanted to respond that, Leslie, when you spoke, this movement in the presence of Zoom, it's us, and how large a presence it is, and trying to make a relationship with the Zoomness as well as with each other and ourselves. Nancy, I think I interrupted you.
It's okay, thank you. My, what came to me, the words were of growing, ever changing, and hopefully evolving somehow, with this group having been a part of all of that during the last year, with so much coming to me through all of the speakers and all of you. So ever changing, evolving.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anybody else?
I loved the idea, and I had expectations in my mind. And I felt good about moving, but I think I was too much into myself, that I didn't see many people moving, or I couldn't gather what people were, what the expression was, or what the sense was. So in that way, there was a little more distance, right, of wanting to belong and yet not sure what was happening, or missing all the things. Does that, I don't know if that makes sense.
That feels actually very beautiful. I'm glad you share it, because it's something that's happening not just in this group, but in life in general. You know, I certainly, for me, it evokes all the moments when I realize I was not there for something and I missed out on it. And so what also feels very nice and what you're doing is, by sharing it, you're actually acting on that regret and creating connection instead of staying outside. And I know how I can myself sometimes stay outside because, oh, I haven't done this, and I stay outside. So I do appreciate your sharing it and your acting on it.
Thanks, Serge. I tend to be an introvert, I think, too. So.
Thank you, Serge. I'm noticing from over here that as this whole part of our time together is expanding, I'm more fully feeling both the space, right, that we're all sharing, and then the uniqueness of the individual voices that are speaking. Lynn, after you spoke so beautifully, I had this image of like flurries of snow in the sky, and each of us are like an individual snowflake, right? Variations on the same, all in this shared space.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And so the power of language, that through language, you know, the way Lynn spoke, the image of the snowflakes, we kind of transmit and experiences that are implicit and hard to communicate in a more explicit way.
I'm Margaret. What I felt, and still feel a bit, is a kind of tightness around me, like a band across my chest. And I've been thinking about it, and I'm thinking it might have something to do with these boxes we're all in, and how constrained I feel by it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Margaret, just before you said that, I was thinking about the felt sense of the group. One of the felt senses of the group is this incredible longing and to be together, and how many of us feel both the possibilities of connection with each other and also the thwartedness of being stuck in these boxes. And Margaret, when you said that, what about focusing as a supreme way of outside the box? So we're trying to think out and be outside our boxes while being in our boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nice, that image of being inside of our boxes while being outside of our boxes. That notion of connecting or constrained expansion, contraction. So I'm inviting all of us to kind of look inside of how it feels as an embodied reality. Whether you're experiencing something like that, that kind of a push and pull in different directions.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I feel that strongly right now because I hear a lot of echoes. And I know that some people didn't mute themselves. So I feel the pull wanting to remind everyone to mute ourselves because the echo affect the sound quality of the speaker. But I also feel the other pull of worried about me naming that will make people feel uncomfortable who haven't muted. So I was feeling this build up energy of this two different pools.
Yeah. Good. And so just curious in your case and in the case of everybody, when you're feeling a pull in these two directions, just like without the content, what does the pull feel like in an embodied way? Where do you notice it? Where are the two sides? And again, you might or might not want to share, but it's an invitation for all of us to pay attention to that in your body.
I'd like to share.
Sure.
So something did resonate from what you said, and it feels a lot like the pull. It feels a lot like being buried alive and trying to come out. Something in me feels a lot like that.
Yeah.
So being buried alive and trying to crawl out is the feeling.
Yeah. So like being buried alive and trying to come out. Yeah.
Right.
Or being disappeared and trying to emerge from that.
Yeah.
Or be seen. Yeah.
Being disappeared and trying to emerge.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're noticing, I want to use this as something that happened spontaneously as the group moved, and so we're going into we went through several phases of individual experience, connecting to group experience, having more of an appreciation for the variations of what may happen, and then progressively deepening the experience of what it's like to be in a group, and what it's like to be inside ourselves. And so at some point we were going to be shifting to breakout rooms, and you're going to be in groups of 4, and you're going to be discussing that in more depth. So we probably have a little more time to continue being together, but I just want to mention this as a transition. So what we're doing now is in the larger group, we started kind of veering toward that, and you're going to go deeper into it as you're in breakout rooms. So anybody wants to share where you're at this moment, whether it's connected to what we're saying or not, because in some way, there's all kinds of parallel processes going on. You might be somewhere else. And so it's good to have an idea of where things are for people.
Hi, go ahead. You go, Jane.
I just wanted to know if it's appropriate to ask about the title of this, which was the active pause. And I don't know how you think about that in terms of what we're doing with our own experience. Is that?
Yeah, no, it's okay. I will respond very briefly because I don't want to break the flow of experience.
Oh, okay.
But so active pause for me is something that is a bit like a contradiction in term. Pause seems inactive and active is active, but it really is to highlight the idea that before any mindfulness can happen, before focusing can happen, it takes a pause, but it's a pause with intention, a pause with that intention to look inside and with the idea that something more can happen.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you. That's helpful.
Steve, I think you wanted to say something?
Yeah, yes. What came for me individually, quite surprisingly, was this kind of in my chest, a kind of the words that came was a particular upward, moving upward love. And that was what came first. And I also want to say how grateful I am that Stuart, the image came to you of the snowflakes, and there's something about that I think that brings a very powerful sense over time for me here, is being a snowflake amongst snowflakes. So, I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where lots of snowflakes happen. So I'm bound by that too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Was going to, I'm sorry. This is Jane. Is it okay?
Yeah.
So I love that image, Steve. Thank you, and Stuart, of the snowflakes. But I've been sort of going through a process as listening and being part of the community, and I've come out with being both very excited, and I feel that in a particular part of my body, and also scared, and it's both personally from in my own life, and but for the whole, for all of us, for the country, for the world, our country particularly, and and they're in different parts of my body, and I feel it very simultaneously. It's a very interesting experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So that sense of both the appreciation for being in the group, the community, and held by it, but also that fear, including fear at the level of the country, and you're feeling it in your body. So if you're okay with that, I'm inviting you to share a little bit, to explore a little bit where and how you feel it in your body, and share it with the group.
Yeah. The excitement part is it's like it's in the whole abdominal area and the belly, and it's as if like the molecules are all dancing.
And so I want to highlight to people who might not be looking at your little rectangle that as you're talking, you're moving your fingers. So that excitement that feels very real, it feels very concrete. It's not just an abstract notion. Yeah.
No. And the fear part.
Hold on.
What? And the fear part is in my throat. I mean, it's something that when I focus, it's always my throat. It's not strong right now, but it tightens up as if I have.
And again, for people who are not watching, that your hands are coming to your throat, and there's like a kind of at least a choking or strangling kind of quality to it.
Like it's almost like a nausea. It's not like a vomiting kind of nausea, but like, something. Yeah, I guess strangling is. It's not quite that, but it's so close.
Yeah. And so how is it like to notice both at the same time? Just are you noticing one and then the other and back to one? Are you noticing both at the same time? So I'm just curious, to bring your attention to the moment by moment quality of the experience.
I can hold both at the same time.
Yeah. And so what's happening as you hold both at the same time? Is it just the experience of the two, or is there another kind of experience that forms as you hold both at the same time?
Wow. it's a, I don't know how to describe it. Yeah,
Great.
it's a bigger experience. It's a, like there's more. Fuller. I don't know. It feels more optimistic. Optimistic was one of the first things I came up with in the original process, and it feels like, yeah, I can do all this.
Great. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Jane. So again, this is great to understand better Jane's experience, but this is also something that's going to help us all when we are in breakout rooms, that, being in a smaller group gives all of us an opportunity to go deeper into the experience. And you're welcome to go deeper in any way that feels right to you. But I'm suggesting that if you can, paying attention to the embodied experience might bring you in a place that maybe might be a little more surprising and opening things up.
I just want to encourage anybody who is new or shyer to just say whatever is on your mind. And I'm noticing how the conversation is evolving and how we're going deeper. And something I noticed was when Olivia took a risk in the here and now to say her tornness about mentioning the distraction of people not muting themselves, that seemed to me to deepen the conversation. Then Incy had her very poignant description of being in a cave and trying to get out. And then it felt like then we had the snowflake images, and just sort of listening to the flow of the conversation and how we're getting to where we're getting is sort of another track that I'm paying attention to. But maybe that's distracting. That remark is distracting from the encouragement for anybody to speak, especially if you're, new or shyer.
Yeah. That at the very least, we want to acknowledge that the people who are not speaking are part of the group as much as anybody else. And that if you actually decide to say something, to remember that you're doing it to enrich the group's experience.
Sometimes just hearing your voice makes a difference. Just hearing the voice of the people that are the ingredients of this us that we are right now. I interrupted somebody.
Yeah, Melinda. I was gonna say something, which it's murky. I don't know how to say it exactly, but I think that people may find themselves in this place, which is, I want to be a participant, and I'm also trying to hold the space for everybody, and so to try to make room for all of that and to be part of this, as well as trying to make sure everyone is safe. So when Olivia said what she said, I've been in the background trying to mute people because certain people just keep unmuting themselves, and I hear the noise, and I'm worried that everybody else is hearing that noise. And so I'm aware of that, at the same time trying to make room for Melinda. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And so I want to bring as a part of what makes this group what it is that it takes caring to create the group and to maintain it. And so I feel grateful to all of you who are here as members to share and to participate, because without that, we don't have a group. But also to the people who have created this group and keep maintaining it, because without that, it wouldn't be here.
I also want to appreciate, Melinda, how you were sharing so personally about what's happening for you in relation to the group right now and your struggle. And there's another level that I talk about as the talking about you and me that always has a kind of excitement, like, the person is speaking about the you and me of it in the moment, and the struggle that you're having to be with yourself and be with the group, which is such a primary struggle for all of us, right? And what you're leading us to, Serge, this experience of being with oneself and being with the self in relation to the group.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, really appreciating how the many ways in which it shows up, in practical ways, in emotional ways. Yeah.
I'm trying to speak. How is my voice? Is that okay for you?
Totally.
So actually, I'm moving my house. So I'm in the daytime. However, I work as a teacher. At night, however, after you see, after dinner, I needed to do some homework about decorating my house. However, I remember today is Monday, so I like to take part in this kind of activity to be as a member in this community, since I benefit a lot in the previous sessions. So thank you for all of you, especially for Lynn. Thank you so much. That's it.
And where are you speaking to us from? Where are you moving your house to?
Yeah, actually, it's we are going to moving into a community. However, there's a teachers, students who are live together, and the community is some similar like how to say Camp Hill. Yes, that's it. If you know about that. Actually, there is several Camp Hill village in U.S. The famous one is called Beaver Run. Yes, near yeah, if you know about that. So we are like to build one of them in China also now.
Wow,
that's it. Thank you.
It's exciting.
Yes.
If you could put the name of that, the community in the chat, I would love to see it.
Yeah, I can. You mean the community from China in the chat, right? Okay, I will put it. Actually, the name is Squirrel in the Mountain. I will put the name there.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
That's it.
Wonderful to pick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just
That's
would
it.
like to thank you. I would just like to say, also, it's not very formed, but just the sort of level of conflict. It's like coming to the group and feeling so grateful that this body of people exists, and how nourishing I normally find it to participate, and having, I guess, like such a bodily sense kind of in my whole like gut area. I don't know enough about anatomy, but like the whole area from the ribs down the torso that's so gripped and sort of can't take in nourishment, and how that brings there's just sort of this knowing that this is what's wanted and what's needed, and normally where I can like if in Africa where you go to your drinking hole and that's where you see your species, your other species, but you gather, and when you go and you find you can't drink, like something's infected you and you can't drink. And so that experience brings up, I guess, just a lot of sorrow, and also a kind of taking my own temperature of where I am or how I am in my body or how I'm able to process or cope right now, that what normally is nourishing, I can't quite access it. So I just wanted to sort of say that because maybe there's a way through or around, or to still be here. Sometimes when I'm in this space, I just drop out because it feels so disappointing that what brings you help or joy doesn't. It feels not deadening, but I guess brings the critic, and also brings a sense of flatness or hopelessness. Like, if this isn't going to do it, I'm really in bad shape. So thank you for letting me say that.
So Rachel, I really appreciate, I think, what you're saying it, and I have that sense of sadness coming from me. And I want to just invite you to just stay there. And maybe just hear and maybe hear that sense, repeating what you said about what is nourishing you, that you're there, you're coming to the watering hole, but you cannot drink it. And then comes the inner criticism. But underneath, I feel a lot of sadness. And staying with that. And feeling that in sharing it, you have shared a lot of yourself and really certainly enriched the group a lot by sharing that very deep experience. Thank you.
I love that image of us gathering at the watering hole, and each of us in our own way trying to drink it, trying to gather and drink each other in, and the obstacles maybe for all of us in different ways to being fully nourished. It brought a lot for me.
Yeah.
It brought a lot for me too, because this idea of cloudy joy with the words that came up that keep kicking back and forth, and when you just spoke, like the joy will burst forth, and I've watched it like in these 20 minutes or so as we've talked together, and it's like the joy I could feel like just so wanting to stay forward, and then the clouds come in, and it's like they're both together, and I feel this rocking movement, and it's almost like I don't want to stay static. Like, I feel myself wanting to like hold on to the joy, like, oh, it's coming. I want it to stay. And I don't feel I can control it. And somehow the rocking, it's hard to put into words, but it gives me more permission that I'm not bad if I don't hold on to the joy. It's just states of being. And that's what it is. Something like that.
Yeah. So being in the rocking, and you certainly don't have to hold on to the joy. Yeah.
I love the way you said that. I'm not bad if I don't hold on to the joy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we notice that in our group experience, we have individual, we have the group, but there's also kind of a something lurking, just somewhat invisible, but the elephant in the room is that self-criticism that keeps coming back and that prevents us from being here. And we all experience it, and many of you have expressed it. And it's there. And this is part of what we deal with and what prevents us from being fully connected to ourselves and to the group.
Can I just say that for me, it's like seeing an alligator in the watering hole, not that far away. So I have to like keep a certain distance.
I love that. It's interesting, Serge, the presence of the alligator of self-criticism, and then there's also the presence of the longing and the forward movement in everything that everyone has expressed. This energy of life in all of us at the same time that pulls us to the next step of opening.
Yeah. How the two, and what I feel really wonderful is how people have expressed it in different images, and also have expressed it in different inner experience, different embodied experiences. And so there's a richness of finding similarities in that experience that pull in both directions, but also of how we experience it differently in terms of images, but also in terms of body experience.
I want to say to Rachel that thank you for your sharing, so touching. And my tears keep rolling out since you started, even before you shared the image. I feel you so deeply, and I so appreciate you bring it up so beautifully and authentically. Yeah, and I miss you.
Thank you, Olivia. I miss you. Thanks for saying that.
Sophie, I'm really appreciating the vulnerability that I feel is here in me and here in the group. And just want to take a pause with this vulnerability. Just want to be in silence with it for just a few seconds. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's Steve. I'd just like to say very briefly that I was quite taken by the image of the well, or of the water for nourishment, and what Rachel said, and just I often find that the tears that come from sadness are almost like they're also water, and they can kind of be like tributaries to that larger well. So through the sadness, I've experienced that. So just wanted to give that image.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful image.
Hi, I'm Steph. I just want to share my appreciation for Serge, and I feel like just witnessing this is helping build or support the muscle in me that can hold space for myself and all those parts. And I'm really appreciative being here and witnessing this whole process. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. Maybe this might be a good time for us to do our breakout rooms. So we can have about 15 minutes. Does that sound good, Serge?
Yeah. So
Welcome
thanks.
back, everybody. People are all coming back.
We went through a group experience in which we were paying attention to our own individual experience as well as being fed by the group experience and noticing the similarities, the differences, the various ways in which we experience things. Then, for 15 minutes, we went into a more intimate sharing, a deeper sharing. And so now we're coming back to the group and sharing some of what happened in this small group process with the group as a whole. And as we're listening to people who are going to share, we're doing it with a sense of, oh, this is this person's experience, but also a sense of what this person is expressing is a portion of our collective experience, and in some way, a portion of my experience.
Oh, Serge, could you mention the
Yeah.
group as a whole and put that in the chat, because some of our helpers here will want to look that up.
Yeah, so a person who was of great influence in the way I do things is Ivan Agazarian. And Melinda is going to put it in the group chat. So Ivan Agazarian created a process, a school of therapy called system-centered therapy. And one of the big ideas around it was to notice what she called isomorphy, which means a similarity of form, a similarity of process between the various circles of process. Intrapersonal, which means what happens inside each of us. Interpersonal in a small group. Interpersonal in a large group, or small groups interacting within a larger group. Society as a whole. And noticing how there's a lot of similarities. The process itself is similar at an intrapersonal level as well as each level of the group. So it's Ivan Agazarian and system-centered therapy.
Thank you, Serge. Also, I think we're noticing how the process of focusing, the steps of focusing, the pause, the image, the carrying forward process is so parallel in community as it is individually. And being so aware of what carries the conversation forward, as well as the individual. As the us is carried forward, the individuals are carried forward, and vice versa. So it's a sort of parallel idea as Agazarian in the focusing world, right?
Yeah, and to put it in a slightly different way, to build up on what you said, is to, in some way, you could think that in a group as we are, we're all little cells that are part of this larger group process. And the paradox is that actually, if you think of a cell as being somewhat inferior to the group as a whole, and just being a mechanical or component part, you miss out on what it is that gives the life of it, because each cell is very active. Each one of us is an individual. It's very connected to our individual experience and respectful of it, that actually the group experience is possible. So that's the paradox of the individual experience not being stifled by being part of the group, but the two feeding each other.
Absolutely. Okay, so we want to hear from you, whatever your experience is.
So in our group, we were exploring that difference of being nourished more or less in a larger group or in a smaller group. And I think what we were also naming was even before we went into smaller groups, that some of us would have liked to go into breakout rooms earlier, and some of us were really comfortable in the larger group. And then we went more into how it is for us personally, where we wanted or where we get more nourishment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, those of us who are primarily nourished by our individual connection to ourselves and those connection to the primary other or others, and those who are connected in community and all the interweavings of those levels of connectedness.
Well, also for me personally, in a small group, the content doesn't matter as much. And there's more and it's also much easier to be seen and staying present with everybody.
Yes.
And as the larger the group gets, the more I get focused on my liking or not liking the content and the speaker, which in a small group really doesn't matter anymore.
Very interesting.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Sophie here. Yeah, it's maybe I was sharing in my small group, and it could be an extension of what Robert is saying. That in the small group, I feel less distracted by the sound, the visual, all the stuff that's going on in all, each of your little boxes. So much going on visually. And in the smaller group, there's less of those boxes, so less distraction. So, and a sense of feeling heard or listen or connection. What I'm having a hard time with the Zoom is when I'm in a circle with people, with in person, I can close my eyes, I can even close my ears the best. I can still feel people. I can still feel the energy. I can feel the bodies there. In the Zoom, I find it really difficult because I find that I have to go with my ears and my eyes only as senses to feel the group or feel the people. And that is difficult. In a smaller circle, less difficult. And then the other thing that I wanted to say and maybe offer, and I don't know if the group would want that, but in another community, a French community, I'm connecting on Zoom. What we do when we resonate is that we make a little sign, we raise our hands or put our hands together, hands on heart, or okay, that's a very American way, okay. And that to me feels, wow, yeah. I feel like I'm connecting. Our people are connecting. And I think, just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Thank you. And so, what's nice to see is there is an observing, Robert, Sophie, noticing how it feels, and in your respective groups, to notice the difference of how it feels to be in a small group versus being in a larger group, and to really pay attention to that experience. And it has both, a mindfulness aspect, just noticing something about yourself, but also has practical aspects. Like, if we could redo this another day and experiment with having a smaller, larger group and go sooner into individual group. We could experiment with Sophie's idea of, just finding a way to visually show the resonance. And I think what this brings up is the idea that once we're in this space of being connected in the group and connected to ourselves, is the possibility of actually having creativity, that we're not just locked in to whatever we're doing, but it brings up ideas in which it could be done differently. And the ideas may or may not be better. And the point is not necessarily that they're better, but that it brings us to a place of experimenting and having tools, where a measuring tool is, see, what does it feel like inside, and what's the quality of the connection. Okay. And we bring these tools to actually forming something together that comes out of how we assimilate our experiences, and it brings us ideas of how to do things possibly differently.
That's such a good point, Serge, about the creativity that comes there when we're observing our experience. And I want to reiterate the welcome for people to be part of this committee, this planning committee, to see our second phase. And let's experiment with Sophie's idea of having a visual image of resonating. I think that's a wonderful idea. Is this the, and Melinda had invited you all to write to us about your experience of this group in this year. And some of what you say will be part of an article. Some of it might be part of inviting people for the next year, but also in writing to us, your suggestions and creativity. We would love to have that, even if you don't have time to be on this committee. You might have, ideas that you want to write to us. So we would welcome all of that.